When I last talked with you, I was talking to you about, of course, things that have happened in my life, the transition that's taken place and where I've come to this point as far as being a professional speaker. Thankful for the opportunity to be able to use technology to share with you by video as well as podcasts and the lessons that I have learned about listening. And I thank you for listening, because if I didn't have a message that I felt had value, I wouldn't do what I'm doing. But having said that, let me go back to the subject we talked about previously. You may remember that I spoke about the word fear. Fear, the mind killer. Fear, the thing that will paralyze you, will stop you in your tracks, will cause you to become absolutely useless. It will petrify you at times. Fear sometimes will also cause you to take action, and that action, if you're able to think clearly, can help you solve a problem, come to someone's rescue, and become a facilitator of something dynamic and wonderful. So you need to also understand that fear in and of itself is not necessarily a bad thing. That being said, you may remember I told you that scientists have proven that 85% of the things we worry about, we have a fear about, never happen. And then within that group of 15% that do, better than 79% of those can be resolved with just some conscious, intelligent thinking and effort. I think that's a fairly simple explanation of fear. Yet, fear can be the biggest single enemy to your success. But it can also teach you a great deal about something else that starts with the letter F, faith. My story is simple. As I come to you today in this broadcast, let me give you a time frame. It's March. Actually, it's the last week of March 2017. Some of the videos that you've been watching and will be watching that I'll be releasing have been done prior to this date. Same with the podcasts that I have done. That's not because I'm trying to trick you up. It's just I've discovered, as my good friend Mark Guy, who is over here, by the way, and Jonathan Nilsson off here to my left, they will tell you some things have much more urgency attached to them. This is a story I want to share with you. I'll try to be brief, but I don't want to miss the important salient points that it's said to me in this experience and the beautiful lesson that I've learned from it. By the way, I'm still catching my breath, literally. Think for just a second. You ever wondered about fear? Do you ever kind of think fear could be lurking somewhere behind you? Think about that. Fear is always somewhere back there, looking for a moment when it can pounce on you and it can mess you up. And don't make any mistake about it, I think there are forces at work in this universe that actually do want to limit your ability to be successful, to steal your joy, to make you less effective, to take away the ability to do something positive for the lives of other people, or to just have simply some peace of mind, a little bit better quality of health. Fear is a killer. Fear is the biggest single thing that attaches itself to our bodies and becomes stress. And trust me when I tell you, stress will kill you. I had already had a difficult month of March, and many of you watching this video know because you have walked that journey with me during the month. You know of the problems that I have had, especially from a financial point of view. And people go through these times. Unexpected expenses are normal. You can do all you want to prepare for the future, but the truth of the matter is, from time to time, something hits you and you don't have the resources to deal with it. That's when you cry out for help. Being a person of faith, I reached out to my friends and asked them to do the one thing I knew they could do, and that was to pray. And they did. And I am convinced through their prayers and through their kindness and through the compassion that is the hallmark of the people that I have surrounding me, many, many good things happened. And that problem is working itself out. But make no mistake about it. If I had allowed the fear of not being able to meet these obligations to overwhelm me, it would have stopped me dead in my tracks, and I would not have been working and accomplishing things to help my cause, even with the aid of third parties. So trust me when I tell you, I had to pull myself together, and in some cases I had to have my best friends and my wife kick me in the rear end and say, get busy, get to work, don't give up, don't quit, keep doing what you do best. Moving along at a great pace here, coming down to the end of the month, and then something totally unexpected occurred sometime either late on Tuesday evening of last week or possibly in the very, very early pre-dawn hours of Wednesday morning. Date and time between the 21st and 22nd of March. That would have been last week. We have a cat. We have more than one. But this one particular cat happens to be a favorite of mine. That's because I'm her favorite. She's crazy about me. I'd show you her picture, but I'm not going to bother you with that. Many of you follow me on Facebook. You know who she is. She's a white cat. She's unique. She's a special needs cat. She has beautiful blue eyes, has what we call a crimped tear duct, so she always has a weepy right eye. In addition to that, she has some other issues. But she's our baby. We rescued her when she was just about 2 weeks old, and we have cared for her and loved her along with our other cats throughout this process. And for whatever reason, she chose me as her favorite human. So she hangs around me. I even created a Facebook page for her. She's got a following. She's got fans. Well, we got up on Wednesday morning to do the usual things before I was planning on going out and doing my regular work in the business that I do, and I couldn't find her. She didn't come out when it was time for dinner. She didn't answer. She wasn't at any of the normal little nooks that she likes to lounge in when she's not doing anything. She was nowhere to be found. At first I figured she was hiding someplace really, really secure, just we hadn't dug deep enough. But then I happened to glance at what I call the living room window, which is actually a window right beside where we have our little dining table. Somehow or the other, the screen in the lower left-hand corner had gotten loose. I could immediately see what had happened. That little rubber spline that holds that screen in place had come up, and it looked like, probably more than likely, she had found it, thought it's something to play with, swatted it, bit it, pulled on it, but in doing so, she loosened the screen enough that it became an opening that she could slip through. And this house cat, let me stress, she's a house cat. She slipped out. I knew immediately she was somewhere outside. And thus began a day-long and well into the night journey around the house, around the neighborhood, repeatedly looking under the house, looking under other houses, looking under cars, looking, I thought, everywhere possible for this little white cat that I so thoroughly love and adore. And I was frustrated. And I want you to know that the minute I saw that opening, fear seized me. But the need for me to find her was greater. And I went and looked and looked and looked. But all the time, fear was looming. It was back there. It was now here. It was in front of me. It was facing me. It was mocking me. It was telling me, you're not going to find her. She's gone. I got on Facebook, reached out to my Facebook family. Many of you watching are part of that group. You started praying. That's right, praying. Now, there are a lot of people in this world who don't believe in God and don't believe in the God thing. That's fine. I don't have a problem with you. Just don't tell me I can't believe. I do believe. But that being said, you would say, why pray for a cat? Why not? Why not? They didn't do anything wrong. They're unconditional creatures. They do exactly what they were created to do and designed to do. They simply love you unconditionally, the way they were meant to do. But when you have one that's like a friend to you, it's like losing a part of yourself. And this was the battle that I dealt with on Wednesday. I slept very little, if any, that night. Continued to look and search and long on Thursday. Put out signs and pictures. Continued to follow on posts. Check Humane Society. Checked Animal Control. Continued the process on Friday. Finally on Friday, when I had exhausted pretty much every possible realm I could think of, and I was spent with my crying because my girl was lost. It wasn't that I had resigned myself to the reality she was gone, simply said there was not much more I could do except hope that somebody had picked her up, was taking care of her, was loving her, was being good to her, and that maybe out of the kindness of their heart, they'd bring her back to us. And so Friday went off okay. But that hole was there. And I could not release myself from that nagging fear that something terrible could have happened to her. All I could do was every time I would drive around the neighborhood, and I did that more than a few times, I would say, thank you, she's not on the road dead or laying in some yard. Saturday arrived. It was time for me to get down with taking care of some things around the house. There had been some productivity that had taken place during the week. I was thankful for that. There had been some kindnesses expressed and hundreds of Facebook posts and also even responses on LinkedIn as well as on Twitter and by email. I decided I wanted to cut the grass. My wife said, you don't have to cut the grass today, we can wait. I went outside and I picked up some things out of the yard. We have a pile of wood out there in the back part of the yard on the left-hand side up in the corner of the fence, and I tossed these pieces of twigs and some pieces of wood that fall out of a tree back there that sheds a few things from time to time. Then I turned around and walked back into the house and didn't even go towards the shed where the lawnmower would be put safely away. And I went inside and thought about what my wife said, and then I finally resolved in my mind, I think I want to go ahead and go cut the grass anyway. So I turned around, got myself dressed to cut the grass, went outside, started for the shed, and as I'm making my way towards the shed, towards the back there, just to the right of that pile of wood, I see a white, fluffy-looking thing. From a distance, call it a thing. But in my heart, I said, could that be Mariella? I walked up, and as I got closer, it didn't move. In my mind, the fear was telling me, oh God, she's dead. Another part of me was saying, at least I found her. That's closure. See what I had just done? I was already preparing myself for the worst. But as I got down on my knees at the base of that chain link fence, and on the other side, in a 6-foot gap, was another privacy fence, so it was a little 6-inch wide gap that this obvious cat was laying in. Head turned away, I reached down, touched the head, it lifted up, it turned and looked at me, and there were those beautiful blue eyes. Dirty? Yeah. Nose runny? Yeah. Fur filthy? Yeah. Was I happy? I was beyond control. I reached down and grabbed the bottom of that chain link fence, reached underneath and delicately grabbed her by the nape of her neck so as to relax her and pull her out as carefully as possible, taking great care not to hurt her in that chain link fence. Let go of that fence, picked that little bundle of dirty fur up, held her close to my chest, and kissed the living daylights out of her. By the time I turned around, my wife, who had observed me through the back window of the house, seeing me knelt at that fence but not able to see what it was I was looking at, she realized what I had found too. And thus, my little white girl, my little angel, returned to us. 4 days, no food, no water. Hungry, thirsty, pretty weak, but alive. Cleaned her up, got her water, got her food. Here we are today, a Monday, the 27th of March. She's getting stronger and she's getting back to who she is. As best as I can tell, the whole time we were looking for her all over the neighborhood, she was underneath that pile of wood in the corner of the backyard. The one place that I didn't look underneath. I just looked around the top. You see, there was a piece of plywood there. Old plywood that I threw there 3 years ago. Still there. And it served as a shelter. And she, not knowing what to do as a house cat, had parked herself underneath there, hoping someone would come and get her. And had I not tossed those branches on top of that pile, she would have never come out. And she might have stayed there until she starved to death. Take a closer look at what I'm trying to tell you. This is not just about what fear can do to blind you or to send you off on a wild goose chase. And this is not just about fear and borrowing trouble. This is about learning to see with a great deal more focused intent. Remember my lesson on I never noticed and all the clues that were there? I missed an opportunity to look at a spot a little bit closer. No, I'm not beating myself up. What I'm trying to tell you is this. Sometime that thing that you want the most, that answer that you desire the most, that person you need to find the most, is right there in front of you. It's just you can't see the forest for the trees. So the next time you think fear is lurking behind you, understand me, fear is always looking for a way to get at you. But that being said, take your fear, close the book, put it down. Think with a clear mind, live with a great deal of hope and faith. Thank those who came to your rescue through their prayers and their care and their love and compassion. And remember, life is too short to give up hope. Thanks for your time. I took a little longer than normal, but it's a story I think that's worth sharing. Until then, this is John Morrow saying, I'll see you next time. So long.